is just a very short video talking about contracts for auction. So the REIQ contract of sale is still used at an auction, but it doesn't have the same degree of flexibility that the normal REIQ contract of sale has. That's because when you sign the contract of sale at an auction, you're signing the contract the way that it is already. So you need to have already viewed that contract and have your conveyancer view that contract. And you need to be satisfied that you are happy with any special conditions in that contract or any terms in that contract. So let's have a look at what could be different. So sometimes also it's good to bear in mind is that you might say, I want to put an offer in before auction. And the sales agent might say, fine, but it'll be under contract. The contract will be under auction conditions. And what that means is there's still no cooling off period, even though you've put an offer in before auction. They want you to have. See, let me explain it better. The seller is going to auction, right? And they know this is the contract that is going to be signed by the winning bidder at the auction. And so if you're going to put a pre-auction offer in, they want you to sign this contract too. Otherwise, why would they bother? They can just wait for you to bid at auction, Because you're going to have conditions, they're not going to really be interested unless, of course, they feel like maybe it's a real buyer's market. No one's going to turn up for the auction. There could be other reasons, but generally, let's just approach this with the solid knowledge that if you're going to place an offer on a home that is headed for auction, they're going to want you to have an auction contract, a contract that has got the same terms and conditions. I hope I made that clear. If there is an auction to take place, the contract will be made available for you to review well in advance. Get it immediately at the open home. Don't wait. Quite often when you attend the open home, you'll receive a text message. The link to all of the documents for the property will be on that link. So the link will take you to a web page and all of the documents for that property, including the contract, will be on that web page. If there's anything in there that makes your eyelid flutter, you need to have your conveyancer have a look at that before you go to auction. If you need special terms, an auction is probably not going to work for you. The reason that they're selling an auction is because they know that more than one person's interested. However, you may be able to get the seller to agree to them prior to auction. Otherwise, what's the point in bidding if you need a long settlement and they won't give you one? So find out from the seller, ask your conveyancer to ask them if it's possible that you could have maybe a different settlement term. Don't really have anything else that you want to put differently in that contract. It's biased towards the seller. It does take a bit of liaising between parties should you want to do that. However, if you're the highest bidder on the auction day, it'll be subject to the terms in the contract that you negotiated prior to the auction. Please don't get excited about that. It's probably not going to be something that the seller's interested in doing. So why is contract review essential before a Queensland auction? In Queensland specifically, there's no cooling off period, right? That 5-day cooling off period that we talked about for an entire video doesn't apply to an auction. If you're the successful bidder after the fall of the hammer, you are legally bound to complete your purchase regardless of whether you can afford it or have had time to fully research the home. It's also an unconditional contract, like I said. Any conditions in there will be the ones the seller put in there. So that's why you must show your contract to your conveyancer before you bid in case they do have something in there. The standard contract may have potential variations. Whilst the REIQ contract is commonly used, sellers can include special conditions or variations that might not be immediately obvious and could significantly impact you. So just if you're turning up for an auction, don't just rock up and go, oh, that's the stock. I bought the house, I'll sign the contract. Make sure you've looked at it before you buy it. The deposit settlement. The contract will specify the deposit amount and settlement period. And generally that deposit amount is due once the hammer's fallen, okay? So you need to have it sitting in your bank account so you can transfer that across pretty well. I'd like to say immediately, but sometimes it's not immediately, but Be prepared for that. Note, buying at auction requires thorough preparation, including completing all of your due diligence, such as building and pest inspections beforehand. The costs associated with this, along with the emotional intensity of the auction process, lead many buyers to avoid them altogether.